When I was 8 years old, my mother and I went to the market to buy groceries. There wasn't much money, so my mother bought only the necessities, and I kept asking her to buy me apples. Mom was very sick that day, and she wasn't in the mood to discuss the matter with me. She threw in a short no and moved on. Instead of running after her, I stubbornly stopped. I started stomping my feet, screaming, demanding those apples. But my mother kept walking. She felt so bad. Mom came closer to the road to cross it at the green light, and I saw her and ran after her. When she turned around, she was already on the other side of the road, and I was hurrying as fast as I could. But all of a sudden, a car came around the corner. I was hit. All I remember at that moment was terrible pain. I hurt my forehead badly, my arm was broken. My mother's screams pierced my ears. I couldn't even whisper anything back. The driver fled the scene. He was going so fast, all the witnesses remembered was an old Ford with a yellow right door, and the whole thing was gray. Someone called an ambulance. They took me away. I survived, my arm healed, only my eyes couldn't be saved. I went blind in both eyes. Mom and the police tried to find that Ford, but they told us it would be hard to do because that door had probably already been repainted. And people were right. They couldn't find the culprit. My mother was very upset that her daughter was left blind, that I was now disabled. Difficulties only increased. I became helpless. I couldn't dress, couldn't walk from one room to another, couldn't even pour my own water. In the beginning, it was very difficult. My mother couldn't go out to work, and it became too expensive to hire a nurse. Then one day, she called me over to her and told me something. "Daughter, you understand that our lives have changed now, and you understand that I have to work." "Yes, Mom, I understand. We have no money for a nanny for you, but I found a very good place. They'll take care of you. Are you leaving me?" No. They'll help you while I'm working." "So you'll come back for me?" "Of course I will, daughter. You stay there while I work, and then I'll come back. Is that a deal?" "Yes, Mom." "Here's my bracelet for you to wear, and when we meet, I'll take it back." "Okay, Mommy. And you're going to earn money for my surgery?" "Yes, daughter, your eyes can be saved, but we need a lot of money for the operation. I'll earn it, and I'll come right back, okay?" "Okay, Mommy." They took me somewhere the next day. I couldn't even see the place. I was introduced to my nanny, Anne. They said she was going to help me with everything. My mom gave me one last hug, and that was our last hug. Every day I would run out of the confines of my room and call for Mama, and Anne would say she wasn't there yet. "No, Mama! She said she was coming for me! She was coming! Where is she? Go get her!" "I'm sorry, Ariana. I'm so sorry." "No, you're lying! Mom will come for me! She wouldn't give me away!" I screamed, I cried, I hid everything I could feel. It wasn't until a year later that I realized that my mother wasn't coming back for me, that she had left me there because she couldn't cope. I spent 2 more years in the orphanage. I had already got used to the environment, learned to read books for the blind, learned Braille. Anne became my big sister. She really took good care of me. And then one day, someone did come for me. My heart almost jumped out of my chest as I walked with my white cane down the hallways. I went to the principal's office, and I was introduced to a Mrs. Dory. She came up to me, got down to my level, put me onto her lap, and started hugging me and crying. I didn't understand what was going on, but the principal said that this woman wanted to adopt me. When Mrs. Dory went out to get her things, Anne whispered in my ear that Dory had a daughter who had passed away due to illness, and that's why she reacted so emotionally to me. I didn't know whether to be happy or not, but I had no choice. Dory took me in. Her house was fully prepared for the blind. There was a handy elevator to the 2nd floor, wide automatic doors like a store, no thresholds, and there was a maid and a babysitter there for me. I couldn't believe I was in such a wealthy family. Dory acted friendly. From day one, she had donated a bunch of things, a phone and even a computer. I thanked her, embarrassed, and then said, "I wish I could see you and my gifts. Give me some time. I'll have you operated on soon. I found out that your eyes can be cured." "Yes, they can. My mom promised to save money for it." Dory was silent, and I could hear sounds like she was crying, but I decided not to ask why. I was fed and given a haircut, then sent to my room. Dory read me a bedtime story, and then she said, "You're going to a new school tomorrow." "How would I go to school? I'm not allowed." "Who said that? You can if you have a chaperone, and that's me." "But how will you follow me around the school?" "I'm the landlady, so I can if I want to." "You're the owner of the school?" "Yes, the principal is different, but I'm the owner. It's a private school with a high level of education. You'll love it, especially since you'll have a special status in the school." Such a prospect pleased me, yet the school treated me with condescension. I didn't care because I couldn't see my classmates' faces anyway. I was a good student. Dory and I got along great, so that was it for about a year. During that time, I got used to her. The horrible nightmare that was the orphanage, when the kids made fun of me, took away my clothes, stripped me naked, were behind me. The only thing I missed was Anne. I promised her I would visit as soon as I could see her again. And that day came. I was prepped for surgery. Dory brought me to the hospital. She gave me a big hug and a kiss at the end. The operation went well. I got a good donor with healthy retinas. I was in the hospital for a few days, and then the bandage was opened. The few years I'd spent in the dark were reflected. I squinted my eyes a lot in the dark room, but the feeling of being able to see something, even if vaguely at first, was unforgettable. While I was still wearing my glasses, I could already move around without a cane. After another 2 months, I could see like everyone else and was used to the sunlight. Dory rejoiced, as I did. Finally, I could see her face. I looked at her for so long, and she looked at me. "What's the matter? Why are you looking at me?" "You're so beautiful." Oddly enough, her face seemed familiar to me, but I chalked it up to the fact that I was just used to her, and my brain had created an image of her in my head through her voice and our touch. I started living life to the fullest. I had friends, hangouts. Dory even gave me a car. It seemed like, how could things get better? But the more and more I looked at my bracelet on my arm, the more I remembered my mother. One day, Dory caught me crying in my room. "What are you doing, baby? What's wrong with you?" "My mom abandoned me because I was blind. But what if I wasn't blind? Would she have abandoned me then?" Dory was silent, took a breath, exhaled, and then asked what makes me think she abandoned me. "She left me her bracelet, and she said she'd come, but she never did. I was just lucky you picked me up. Otherwise, it would have stayed in that creepy place forever." Dory hugged me and reassured me. I never asked questions about her daughter, but that night, I wanted to know more. It was obvious that Dory had a hard time talking about it, but she told me briefly that her daughter had been very ill. I was taking her to the hospital. She had a severe seizure of epilepsy, stronger than usual. And then what happened? Something happened on the way. I should have stopped, but time was running out, so I kept going. I made a lot of mistakes because of my nerves. But anyway, by the time I got to the hospital, it was too late. And then Dory closed her eyes and cried bitterly. She was crying so hard, I couldn't calm her down. So the next day, I wanted to please her a little. I was waiting for her to come home from work. I decided to give her a special surprise. I heard her daughter used to be fond of beadwork, and I wanted to make her a bracelet with our names on it. I went to the attic, hoping to find her daughter's beads there. I rummaged through the boxes and found a dusty box labeled Laura. It was the name of her late daughter. I took the box out and put it downstairs in the living room. When I opened it, there was a picture of Dory and Laura standing there. They were hugging and smiling. I think they were camping, but something else caught my attention. There was a Ford with a yellow door parked in the background. And at that moment, a memory jolted into my head. I was running across the road, and all of a sudden, a car came out at a red light. The driver, her frightened eyes. And that's when Dory walked in. She was smiling, and then she saw that I was holding a picture. "Honey, why are you looking at these pictures?" "It was you! It was you! You hit me! How could you? I hate you!" Dory was crying. She tried to come up to me, but I stopped her.
You made me blind! You're the reason my mother left me! It's all your fault! Is that why you took me in? Are you trying to make it up to me? I'm sorry. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but Laura was dying. You ruined my life.
I was crying. I can't tell you how I felt then. Now, we haven't spoken in over a month. Dory begged for my forgiveness, but I couldn't even look at her. So today, I decided to find my mom, try to get her back. Do you think I can do it? Support me in the comments.
Hello, everyone. My name is Christina, and my dream came true since childhood, to have big breasts. I myself cannot believe that I have achieved the goal, but it is so. Now I will tell you everything in more detail. I am waiting for your comments under the video, and from your side, like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'll start with the fact that when I was little, I liked to try on adult outfits. I loved to spin for hours in front of the mirror, imagining that I was going somewhere beautiful at a chic event and everyone was admiring me. Once my mother was changing in front of me and I noticed her breasts. I was wondering why I don't have them, and my mother just said that they will grow up. I couldn't believe that I would ever have such beautiful breasts like hers. Mom put on a black bra and a black blouse. It looked just awesome. I asked what a bra is for, and my mother said that it emphasizes the breasts. Plus, it is an important attribute of any girl. I lit up, asked to try some on, but she just laughed. And when my mom left, I immediately reached into her locker, took another one, tried it on myself, and it looked ridiculous. At that moment, I really wanted my breasts to grow faster. I began to dream about it. What was the first thing I did? Of course, I went on the internet, where I read methods for breast augmentation. But I needed them to grow first. When I was 11 years old, I felt a strange sensation inside me. The place where my chest should be, it hurt. I felt some seals and complained to my mother. We went to the hospital, where they told us that my breasts were starting to grow. This news made me so happy. Could I also wear beautiful underwear? I waited for a whole year, 2, 3, and my breasts certainly grew, but it was not what I wanted. They were little. My mother told me to be patient and not to rush things, assuring me that everything has its time. But I couldn't wait to get my mom's bras. I went back to the internet and started looking at recipes for breast augmentation. One of the safest comments on the forum was, "You should eat cabbage." Well, then you understand what I did. Yes, I ate this vegetable for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I don't really like cabbage, and when I sat on the cabbage menu for a week, I was already starting to feel sick at the very thought. Plus, I was experiencing eternal bloating. I didn't know that this vegetable could smell so bad. I had a hard time and I gave it up. I then came across another ad on the internet that said breasts can be enlarged by operation. Of course, the advertising looked spectacular. The pictures before and after were inspiring, but damn, I wasn't 18 years old yet. And who will give me such money for my chest? In addition, you need to be examined, and this requires parental permission. My mother will definitely not give it to me. She will call me crazy. Then I was looking for something else, and I found it. Some clinic raffled off breasts. It was something like an auction, but you needed to go through a couple of stages of participation in a competition. I realized that this was my real chance. I immediately registered on the site, wrote a letter, indicated my goal and preferences. I wanted a size 3 breast. I thought it would fit me. So what's the big deal for me? After all, I knew I would also grow, but I wanted ready-made breasts. I did not want to have to wait. The first stage was to subscribe to all your accounts on the clinic's page, write comments, make reposts, and so on. It was the easiest. The second one needed money. I do not know the exact amount, but the starting price of the breast was $200. I know it's not much money compared to how much the operation actually costs, but I didn't even have that money. The auction was scheduled in 3 weeks, and this meant that I had to collect this amount and more than the starting amount in a short time. I immediately ran to look for a part-time job. First of all, I agreed with my mother that she would pay me $5 a day for housework. She knew I hated cleaning, but she was interested in my suggestion, so we agreed. This meant that in 3 weeks, I could earn $105. A little, but better than nothing. Now I came home and quickly did my homework, then started cleaning, then ran to the neighbors and walked their dogs. I sold lemonades, cookies a couple of times, cleaned the yards of my grandmothers in the district, for which I also received money. Plus, I asked my father to give me money for my future birthday and give me the gift in advance. He agreed, giving me $50. In general, I was getting closer to the goal and it was good. 3 weeks seemed like a hell of a lot, but I respected myself for having managed to save as much as $450. I was afraid to go alone, so I took a friend with me, and we went to the auction. The day before, I was very worried and nervous. I even thought that I might have changed my mind. The realization that I would voluntarily go under the knife was frightening, but I was striving for a dream, and beauty requires sacrifices. Investments were sobering. So we arrived at the appointed place and looked around in surprise. I imagined a decent place with a lot of people, a large hall where, in addition to the breasts, perhaps something else would be played. But it was a terrible neighborhood. There was a garbage dump nearby. Even rats ran through it. Cheryl, my friend, asked if we were here, but unfortunately, we were. We knocked on the iron door. It was opened by some guy who asked who we were and why we came. I said that we came for the auction, and he opened the door and invited us inside. I was uneasy, but we went in anyway. The hall was more like a venue for a gathering of dirty rockers. It stank terribly. It was dark and suspicious. But I thought that maybe they do it on purpose. Suddenly they have such a style of work. Surprisingly, I was the only one of the participants. I was immediately asked how much money there is. I called the amount, and they took the money and gave me a certificate. Congratulations! Thanks to the certificate, you will be able to have the operation performed in our clinic. And that was all. They explained that since there were no people, I was the only one who wanted to, and so I won. I came home happy, but there was still some doubt inside. My mother came into my room and saw the certificate. What? What is this? I told her everything as it was. My mother sat down on the bed and said, "My daughter, you have been deceived." What? It can't be. They even have their own website, I said, but when I went on the page, it no longer existed. You're lucky they didn't do anything to you. You should have told me, my mother said. I was very upset. I cried. I was sorry for the money, but nothing can be fixed. I've learned that lesson forever, but my breasts are still growing. I hope they will be the way I want them to be.